We are now going to review the Greek Septuagint's usages of our related words baptizo, baptos, and bapto. First, in my accordance search of the Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses, only the verb bapto occurs in 10 verses, where it often specifically means dip. A few usages have sentence construction that is worth keeping in mind when considering New Testament usage of baptizo. Here we go. First off, in Exodus 12, verse 22, we read that a person is supposed to take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin. Just read the Hebrew up here. ולקחתם אגודת אזוב וטבלתם בדם אשר בסף. וטבלתם בדם אשר בסף. And you dipped it, plural, in blood, which is in the blood. Bapsantes apo to ematos. You dipped it from the blood, which is, it's not what we'd expect, I don't think. This seems to act like bapsantes here, the word for bapto, is talking about not necessarily the action of dipping it, but rather talking about the result of having the hyssop covered with the blood, moistened from the blood, and also here, from the blood. So it's a little bit unusual that we got apo instead of ace. Bapsantes, ace, but instead of ace, we have apo. So this seems to signify a meaning that could be a little different from other usages. I'm not going to try to pin anything on this. It's just something to keep in mind. The ESV and most other translations dip it in the blood. Right there. We go to the next usage. This is more like what I would expect. And the priest shall dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle part of the blood 7 times. V'taval hakohen et etzba'o badam. V'hiza min hadam. There it is, min hadam. From the blood. V'hiza min hadam. But first of all, v'taval hakohen et etzba'o badam. And kai bapse ho erus ton daktulon es to ema. And will dip the priest his finger into the blood. And this is what I would expect. Es to ema. Let's go on. Leviticus 4:17. Again, the priest shall dip his finger in the blood. In the Hebrew, v'taval hakohen etzba'o min hadam. So here we have this other unusual usage again, min hadam, from the blood. V'taval hakohen etzba'o min hadam. The Kohen dipped his finger from the blood. V'hiza sheva pe'amim. This recounts the similar structure that we saw earlier in the first usage. Kai bafse ho eus ton daktulon apo tu ematos. From the blood. From the blood. Again, I'm not going to try to make something extremely important out of this, but it's something to keep in mind that there was certain flexibility, and I think it also has to do with how we understand this word bapto, that didn't strictly come across as only meaning dip, but had a slightly different influence as well. But here, v'taval hakohen etzba'o min hadam, that is just not what you'd expect. You'd think badam, but min hadam means like from the blood, which seems to indicate like the Kohen is supposed to get his finger moistened from the blood. You could say it that way. V'taval hakohen etzba'o min hadam. Let's go on to the next verse. Leviticus 9:9. And the sons of Aaron presented the blood to him, and he dipped his finger in the blood and put it on the horns of the altar. Vayakrivu b'nei Aaron et hadam elav vayidbol etzba'o badam. Vayidbol etzba'o badam. Oh, I can't read this too well in the Greek. Kai pros enegkan hoi uyoi Aaron to aima prosoton kai ebapsen ton daktulon eis to ema. So he dipped his finger into the blood. Again, into the blood, which is what we expect from this as well. Vayitbol etzba'o badam, and he'll dip his finger in the blood. So this is what we'd expect. He dipped his finger, eis ta'ema, into the blood. We go on to Leviticus 11:32. And anything on which any of them falls shall be unclean. We go to the end of it down here. It must be put into water, and it shall be unclean until the evening, then it shall be clean. Bamaim yuva vetamea de'erev. It's talking about anything on which one of the unclean creatures falls when it dies. It's talking about a lizard that's hanging on the wall or on the ceiling, and it dies and falls off the ceiling or it falls off the wall and it falls onto anything in your house, makes it unclean, and you have to cleanse it. Must be put into water. And the Hebrew says, B'maim yuva. It says, in water it must be brought through. And even when you do that, vetamea da'erev, it's still unclean until the evening, and then it's pure, vetaher. In the Greek, it says, eis hudo bafesetai, into water it is dipped. And this is what we'd expect, although brought through is slightly different than bafesetai, but whatever. Just to emphasize again, eis hudor, into water, bafesetai. Let's go on. Leviticus 14:6. He shall take the live bird with the cedar wood and the scarlet yarn and the hyssop, and dip them and the live bird in the blood of the bird that was killed over fresh water. Here in the Hebrew, Vetavalotam ba'et atzipo achaya badam atzipo hashchuta al hamayim achayim. In the Greek Septuagint over here, kai bafse auta, kai to onithion to zon, eis ta ema, into the blood. So let's go on to the next one. And dip his right finger in the oil that is in his left hand. Vetaval hakohen et etzba'o haimanit min hashemen. So here we have again a construction that seems a little different, but the Kohen dips his finger from the shemen, min hashemen, asher al kapo. So he dips his finger from the shemen. In other words, it's talking about how his finger is supposed to be lightly covered from the oil that's in his other hand. This is what we find in the Septuagint as well. Kai bafse tu daktulon to dexion apo tu elayu. From the oil. It's olive oil. Let's go on to the next verse in Leviticus 14:51. And shall take the cedar wood and the hyssop and the scarlet yarn along with the live bird and dip them in the blood of the bird that was killed in the fresh water and sprinkle the house 7 times. In the Hebrew, Vetavalotam badam atzipo ashchuta b'mayim achayim. And he dipped them in the blood of the bird, the slaughtered bird, and the water, the living water, living waters. In the Greek Septuagint, kai bafse auto eis ta ema. So this is what we'd expect, and he dipped them into the blood. Kai bafse auta eis ta ema. Eis ta ema. So again we have eis. So we come to Numbers 19, verse 18. Then a clean person shall take the hyssop and dip it in the water and sprinkle it on the tent. Velakach ezov vetaval b'mayim ishtaho vehiza ala oel. And a clean person or a pure person will take hyssop and dip in the water and sprinkle the tent and everything that's in it and all the people. In the Septuagint, kai lemtsetai usopan kai bafse eis tahudor aner katharos. He will dip it into the water. And this is what we'd expect. Finally, we get to the blessing in Deuteronomy about Asher. And of Asher he said, most blessed of sons be Asher. Let him be the favorite of his brothers, and let him dip his foot in oil. So what does that mean? To let him dip his foot in oil. We see in the Hebrew, Ula Asher Amar, Baruch Mibanim Asher, Yehi Ratzui Echav, Vetovel B'Shemen Raglo, Vetovel B'Shemen Raglo. So Asher is supposed to be among the favorite of the other 11 brothers. It says, Vetovel B'Shemen Raglo. This is supposed to signify luxury. It's supposed to signify that Asher takes care of his body with olive oil. It's like he anoints himself. Feet were particularly prone to suffering daily injury by just walking around. So you moisten your feet with oil. I think it's more like this is anointed their feet. It's to signify luxury. In the Greek, it's written, Bapse en elaio tan poda autu. He will dip in olive oil his feet. And this is not into ace, it's en. So it comes across like bapse with olive oil. Possibly we're not talking strictly about dip, but we're talking about having an effect of anointing, softening the skin by anointing with oil. But I'm not going to say that that is exactly what is meant. I'm just saying this is different. This is not bapse es elayon. It's en, so it could be with. That concludes the 10 verses in the Pentateuch that have this verb bapto.